Your culture gave it to you because a citizen who defines his own values is harder to sell to than a citizen who accepts the values he is handed. The herd does not hate you. The herd is simply terrified of anyone who reminds it that the fence it lives inside was built by human hands and can therefore be torn down by human hands. When you begin to move differently, people will notice. When you begin to train harder and eat cleaner and read more and speak less and stop showing up to the gatherings that drain you, they will notice. And they will not cheer. They will pull. They will question. They will say you have become too serious. They will say life is short and you should enjoy it. What they mean is your refusal to stay the same is making it impossible for me to stay the same, and I need you to stop. Do not stop. The man who grows becomes a mirror. Mirrors are uncomfortable things. They show people not only what is, but what is possible. And nothing makes a person angrier than being shown a possibility they have already decided to abandon. Let them be angry. Let them call you obsessed. Let them whisper. Your job is not to manage their comfort. Your job is to become. Phase 2. The will to power. This is the most abused concept Nietzsche ever introduced to the world. There is a version of you that you have not met yet. A version that does not apologize for its ambition. A version that does not shrink itself to fit into rooms that were never built for it. A version so focused, so relentless, so completely committed to its own becoming, that if you encountered him today on the street, you would feel something strange in your chest. Not admiration, not envy, fear, because you would recognize him. You would see in his eyes the thing you have been avoiding. The truth of what you are capable of if you stopped negotiating with your own weakness. That version of you exists. He is not a fantasy. He is not a goal. He is the inevitable result of what happens when a man finally decides to stop living for the audience and start living for the work. Nietzsche did not write for the comfortable. He did not write for the man who has made peace with his limitations and decorated that peace with the language of wisdom. He wrote for the one who wakes up at 3 a.m. with a fire in his chest and no name for it. He wrote for the one who looks at his own life and feels the unbearable gap between what is and what could be. He wrote for you. And everything that follows is a translation of his philosophy into the only language that matters, the language of daily action. Phase 1. The death of the herd. Nietzsche called it the hardest thing a human being can do. Not climbing a mountain, not building an empire, not facing an enemy. Killing the voice inside you that speaks in borrowed words. The voice that says, be grateful for what you have. The voice that says, do not stand out too much. The voice that says, who do you think you are? That voice is not yours. You did not grow it. You inherited it like a disease passed from generation to generation, by people who were afraid and taught their children to be afraid in the same shape. Your parents gave it to you, not out of malice, but out of love, because they were trying to protect you from the pain of failing at something large. Your teachers gave it to you because a student who questions everything is harder to manage than a student who obeys. Politicians used it. Dictators used it. People who never read a single page of his actual work used it as justification for domination and cruelty. But Nietzsche was not writing about power over others. He was writing about something far more demanding and far more rare. power over yourself. The will to power is the drive that makes the sculptor return to the studio when the sculpture is not working. It is the drive that makes the runner push through the wall when every signal in the body is screaming to stop. It is the internal pressure that refuses to let you remain smaller than what you know you are. Every single morning you wake up, you are fighting a war that most people do not even know is happening. On one side is the force that wants to preserve the current version of you. It tells you that rest is wisdom. It tells you that enough is a virtue. It tells you that you have already done enough today, this week, this year. On the other side is the force that wants to create a new version of you. It is not comfortable. It does not offer warmth. It offers only the cold, difficult, magnificent feeling of becoming something you were not yesterday. Most men let the first force win every single day for the rest of their lives, and then wonder in old age why their life felt so small. You are not going to let the first force win. Not today. Not because someone told you not to. Not because you read it somewhere and felt motivated for 48 hours, but because you have finally understood that the war is real and that losing it slowly, day by day, choice by choice, snooze button by snooze button, is not safety. It is the slowest possible form of defeat. Phase 3. Amor fati. Love your fate. 3 words that carry more weight than most people can hold. Not tolerance of your fate. Not reluctant acceptance of your fate. Love. Active, chosen, deliberate love for every single thing that has happened to you, and every single thing that is going to happen to you. Nietzsche was not naive. He understood suffering better than almost anyone who has ever put words on a page. He lived in physical pain for most of his adult life. He was rejected by the woman he loved. He was misunderstood by his contemporaries. His books sold almost nothing while he was alive. He knew suffering from the inside, and yet he said, "Love it." Not because the suffering is good, but because it is yours. And everything that is yours is material. Every failure you have accumulated is a data point that a man who never tried does not have. Every rejection you have survived has given you a thickness of skin that cannot be bought or borrowed. Every night you spent wondering if any of it was worth it has built in you a capacity for endurance that only comes from actually enduring. People do not collapse from suffering. People collapse from the belief that they should not have to suffer. They make a quiet agreement with mediocrity because mediocrity at least does not hurt in the same sharp, specific way that ambition does. But Nietzsche saw through this. He understood that the pain of becoming is real, but it is finite. The pain of never becoming is different. It is dull, and it is permanent, and it sits in the chest of every man who chose the easy path and never stopped feeling the ghost of the harder one. You are going to take every scar, every humiliation, every moment where the world told you that you were not enough, and you almost believed it. And you are going to hold it up to the light and see it for what it actually is. Not a wound, a weapon. Phase 4. The eternal return. Nietzsche offered the world a thought experiment so simple and so devastating that most people cannot hold it in their minds for more than a few seconds before they need to put it down. Imagine that your life, this exact life, every morning, every decision, every conversation, every compromise, every moment of courage, and every moment of cowardice repeats itself an infinite number of times. You live it again, and again, and again, forever, without change, without escape, exactly as it is right now. If that thought fills you with horror, then you have your answer. You are living a life that even you do not believe in. There are hours in your day that you know you would not choose again if you were honest. There are habits you carry that you know are not the habits of the person you want to become. There are relationships you maintain out of history rather than choice. The eternal return does not ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be honest. It asks you to look at the life you are actually living and ask whether it is the life you would sign your name to if signing your name meant signing it forever. This question is not meant to paralyze you. It is meant to clarify you, because the moment you can answer yes to that question, even for 1 hour of your day, you have found something real. And the work becomes finding a way to expand that hour until it fills your entire life. Phase 5. Become who you are. Perhaps the strangest instruction Nietzsche ever gave. Not become who you want to be. Not become who your parents wanted you to be. Not become who the market needs you to be. Become who you are. As if who you are is something buried rather than something built. And Nietzsche believed exactly that. He believed that underneath every layer of conditioning, every habit you adopted to survive a childhood that demanded compliance, every mask you put on to be loved by people who could only love a performance, there is something original, something that existed before you learned to be afraid. Something that has been waiting with extraordinary patience for you to stop performing long enough to notice it. The process of discipline is not addition. It is excavation. Every day you wake up early, you remove a layer of the man who hid from his own potential. Every time you choose honesty over comfort, you find something underneath the performance. Every time you train, when you do not feel like training, you chip away at the version of yourself that believed feelings were a valid reason to stop. Discipline, real discipline, the Nietzschean kind, is the act of removing everything that was never you, so that what remains is only what is. Phase 6. The loneliness of the ascent. Nobody warns you about this part. Nietzsche knew it better than anyone, because he lived it more completely than almost anyone in recorded history. As you rise, you will become harder to reach. Not because you become cold, but because the things that used to connect you to other people, the shared complaints, the mutual comfort in staying the same, the collective permission to be less than capable, those things will simply stop applying to you. You will sit in rooms you used to belong to and feel like a tourist. You will have conversations with people you have known for years and realize that you are now speaking from a place they have not visited. This is not arrogance. This is distance. The distance between who you were and who you are becoming. Nietzsche spent his most productive years in near total isolation, sick, poor, writing books that almost no one read. And in that isolation, he produced ideas that are still reshaping how humanity understands itself more than 100 years after his death. The solitude was not a failure of his life. It was the condition of his greatness. When you remove the noise of the herd, you begin to hear something else. Your own signal, your own frequency, the specific vibration of the thing you are here to do. That signal has always been there. It has just been drowned out by everything you said yes to when you should have said no. Phase 7. the standard of the absolute. Nietzsche studied what made civilizations collapse, and he found the same answer every time. Not external enemies, not natural disasters. Rot from within, a slow surrender of the standard, a gradual permission for less. Rome did not fall to the barbarians. Rome fell because it forgot what made it Rome. You are living in the most comfortable era in human history. Every inconvenience that used to demand strength from a person has been engineered away. You do not have to hunt. You do not have to endure cold. You do not have to build anything with your hands if you choose not to. And this comfort, which looks like progress, has done something quiet and terrible to the average man. It has made him soft in a world that still, beneath its soft surface, rewards the hard. To hold yourself to a genuine standard in this environment is an act of rebellion, not the kind that gets attention, the quiet kind, the kind where you decide privately that you will not participate in the race to the bottom, that you will not lower your expectations of yourself to make others feel better about their expectations of themselves. You do not announce this. You do not perform it. You simply live it. And over time, over months and years of living it, the standard becomes the man. Phase 8. The death of the old self. This is the part they do not show you. They show you the transformation. They show you the result. They do not show you the funeral. Because to become the person you are capable of becoming, you have to bury someone. You have to bury the version of you that needed to be liked more than it needed to be true. You have to bury the version of you that used other people's opinions as a compass. You have to bury the version of you that was waiting for permission, waiting for the right moment, waiting for someone to tell you that you were ready. Nietzsche said, "There is no avoiding this war. You can postpone it. You can distract yourself from it for years. But the war between who you are and who you could be does not go away. It only gets louder. And the longer you wait to fight it, the more of your life it has already consumed." The death of the old self is painful in a way that is very difficult to describe to someone who has not experienced it. It feels like loss, even though what you are losing was never worth keeping. It feels like loneliness, even though the solitude is exactly what you needed. It feels like you are becoming someone unrecognizable. You are. That is the point. On the other side of that death is not arrival. There is no arrival. On the other side of that death is a man who has stopped waiting for his life to begin. A man who has taken the Nietzschean idea completely to heart. Not that the world owes him greatness. Not that suffering should be avoided. Not that comfort is the goal. But that he is the author. That the life he lives is a text he is writing with every choice. And that the only question worth asking every single morning when he opens his eyes is this: what kind of sentence am I going to write today? Nietzsche wrote his greatest work in exile, stripped of status, stripped of health, stripped of the recognition he deserved while he was alive to receive it. And in that darkness, he produced words that outlived empires. He did not need the applause. He needed the truth. Your discipline is your truth. It is the only thing that belongs entirely to you. They can take your money. They can take your reputation. They can take the years you lost to fear and hesitation. But they cannot take your capacity to begin again. They cannot take your ability to look at the next moment as the moment where everything changes. That capacity is yours. It has always been yours. The world is getting louder. The world is getting softer. The distractions are multiplying faster than any generation in history has ever had to navigate. This is not a problem. This is your advantage. Because while everyone else is drowning in noise, you are going to go quiet. While everyone else is optimizing for approval, you are going to optimize for depth. While everyone else is asking, "What do people want from me?" you are going to ask, "What does the best version of me demand of this moment?" You are going to scare people. Not because you are trying to, but because a man who has decided to become something real is deeply unsettling to people who have decided to stay comfortable. Let them be unsettled. Zarathustra came down from the mountain not to be understood. He came down to offer something to the few who were ready. You are ready. The mountain is waiting. Go.